Why is it that we feel disgruntled a lot of the time, whether at work or at home? It's something called the Maslow paradox. How many people, by round of applause, are familiar with the Maslow pyramid? Okay. All right, good. So a lot of us are, some of us may not be, but this man, Maslow, talked about how there are several needs that we all have. The very basic being the physiological. You have to eat, all your 5 basic things of water, food, air, clothing, shelter, all of that. And then it ladders all the way up to self-actualization. Now, at our level, now we're not all on the same level, but at our socioeconomic status or so, we have kind of a high starting point, right? I mean, and that's a gift and a curse. And they say to whom much is given, much is expected. So the higher we are on the Maslow hierarchy of needs, maybe it is harder to find happiness, because to me, happiness is about the delta, right? When I'm the child of immigrants, so sometimes when I will see it from this perspective, it's a little bit clear. I'll see a janitor and I won't see a guy mopping up a floor. Well, I will see a guy mopping up a floor, but I'll also see somebody who may have come here from India, from Ireland, from any of the other 7 countries that start with the letter I, and if you're bored, you can work on that. But anyone who comes here, he may be, or she may be, raising a family, the breadwinner, and might be killing the game right now, whereas I was born into privilege, and maybe I haven't done that much with my life. So it's a little bit hard sometimes for us to find this if you came in to a loving family or having self-esteem, that getting to the last part feels like I haven't really done anything with my life. It doesn't seem like I've really moved very far. This is our family at Buckingham Palace in 1985. So there I am with my mom and my dad, my 2 twin brothers. And like a lot of people in our generation, Asian and otherwise, I spend a lot of time thinking, what am I supposed to do with my life, right? We go through this a lot of the time. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And my mom said to me once, that is a huge privilege. You kids have a huge privilege. She said, we got to this country and we were focused on keeping our heads down and doing what we had to do. We were focused on our current meal, our current day of work, our current child, not the next of anything. And isn't this just an embodiment of what they say of staying in the moment? This is what they were forced to do. So since we started way up there on Maslow, it may be harder for us to find this happiness. But here is the but of our parents' generation. Our parents said that, they kept their heads down and they just did it. And I give them a lot of respect. Okay, my mom is still going strong. My dad passed away in May. That's been a really hard thing for our family this year. But it also, I think, helps, when you go through grief, if you lose somebody, this also stress tests this philosophy. Because if I looked at all this, I said, well, this is all BS after all. I don't believe in any of it. It actually makes me go, okay, some of these principles I believe in. I'm Hindu, I believe in faith, and whether you're Christian or Muslim or agnostic or anything, whatever your set of principles is, it gets tested during those times of loss and of grief. But the challenge for our parents' generation, with some exceptions, is they didn't do it. Their mental health wasn't always that good. They didn't address it. You've heard a lot about that in the last few days, of mental health, the saying we held it together. I don't know, sometimes that anger came out, that sadness came out, that disappointment came out. I don't know that they just did it and got all the way through it as healthily, if that's a word, as they could. Now add this to the fact, again, the water in which we're swimming, that your companies, all the companies here today, and over the course of this week, you hire ambitious people, right? We're here, we want more and bigger and faster and taller and stronger, and it's never feels like it's enough. That actually leads me directly to the 4th tip, which is manage your energy. This is a big one. People forget this a lot because we're used to considering money and time as resources. I live in LA, I go to San Francisco a lot, and it's always this big conundrum. Do I drive or do I fly? And everybody does the math. They look at the gas prices. They look at how much the ticket costs. They look at the time. They look at the traffic. But they don't think about how they'll feel when they get there, right? If you drive, which I've made that drive many times, you might be exhausted by the time you get there. That's energy. That's an important part of it because people will oftentimes talk about a straight shot. Because they'll say that, LA to San Francisco, it's a straight shot. I'm like, well, the moon is a straight shot. That doesn't mean it's close. It's really far away. What do you mean a straight shot? But as I've gotten older, I realize what that means. There are fewer turns. There's less you have to think about. You just shoot up the five, because I live in LA, so we won't say 5, the 5. And then you'll realize that, okay, I know what people mean now. So that is all part of the energy. And also manage your energy by replenishing. This is what I was talking about our parents' generation. They oftentimes did not take breaks. They really valued the fact that they could work for hours and hours and hours. But you probably heard the story of some, what is it, the two people who are chopping wood and somebody's chopping for like 10 hours and the other person chopped for maybe 6. But, she chopped way more wood than the person over here. Why? Because she sharpened the saw, right? She would go and she would sharpen the saw. That's what relaxation time is. That's what vacation time is. One of my brothers, one of the ones I showed you there, Vikas, he's a VP of Heineken in New York City, so he has a lot of fun. And he has a theory on this, not just a theory, a practice on this. He always has his next vacation booked. Even if it's 6 months out, he loves having it on his calendar. He put the money down, it makes it real. Back to Ernest Hemingway. I love this man. He said, know when to stop. He would actually literally stop in the middle of a sentence so he knew where to pick it up the next day. You could do that. You could do that when you're writing a recommendation or a report or a letter or anything like that. You may not be writing The Old Man and the Sea, but you could use this when you're writing your next memo. Just start the next section and you'll return with a lot of momentum, a lot of energy. And as far as picking things up where they left off, I always found, at P&G, people were great about this. Instead of asking, how was your weekend? They would say, how was your daughter's soccer match on Saturday afternoon? They remembered that, from Friday to Monday, and that was a really great way to build relationships, to keep that momentum going from one week to the other. It was way more effective. I was single, so they were like, who was your designated driver on Saturday night? That was more my question that was directed my way. I didn't have a daughter at that time, still don't, that I know of. But at any rate, I do have a son, though, a 3-year-old son. Finally, on this piece, recall the law of averages. Things have a way of reverting to the mean. At the University of Cincinnati, materials engineering, I remember I got a B in my mechanics class, and there was no plus-minus system at the time. I was so pissed off. I really wanted an A. I got an A in fluid mechanics, and that made me so happy because I worked so hard in that class. I got an A. I was so happy. I got a B in mechanics. It was mechanics 2. I was so angry about it. And I marched into Dean Young's office, and I told him, I should have had an A in this class. He was a very calm man, and he looked at me, and he goes, okay, maybe you should have had an A in this class. But admit to me right now, there are probably times when you got an A and you should have gotten a B. And I realized how right he was. I also want to punch him in the face because that made so much sense. I'm like, you are so right about that, Dean Young. That's not fair, but you're right. But it's the same thing you will say to a cop. A police officer will stop you. You'll say, but officer, I was not speeding. And most police officers will look at you and go, well then fine. This ticket is for every other time that you were.